Why I chose a conservative woman. I was in a 33-year marriage, which was a very liberal minded kind of marriage. Um, I was raised by a militant feminist PhD mother, and that's pretty much what I had as a role model for relationships. And so, in the 33 years of marriage, I cultivated a very liberal marriage. Um, it didn't work very well for me. And since then, um, I've decided that being with a conservative woman has been favorable. So, what were the things in my marriage that were liberal? Um, One of the things is that I really encouraged my ex wife to go finish her college degree. And she was only one quarter away, not a semester, a quarter away at UC Davis from getting her English degree and to become a writer, which is something that she always said she wanted to do. And I did everything I could to encourage that she stay, continue. I'll find some way to pay all the bills while you're, not working if you think it's too hard to work while you're going to college. Because being so close, it opens so many more opportunities. Any job she would choose to get more pay and just, more credibility as a writer. All kinds of different things like that would be advantages. But, you know, that she chose not to, and that's her choice. And that's another thing about how a very liberal marriage works, is that it's always her choice. She always gets to choose. And the red pill or manosphere would call that the gynocentric thinking of a gynocentric society, which is bullshit. But anyway, that was the situation, how it was, and that's kind of encouraged, by all the people I worked with. I'd get the same story, man, woman, conservative, liberal. I'd explain my plight. I'd say, I work hard all the time and it's hard to make ends meet, and it would be nice if, she could finish, whatever, like that. And like, for example, I worked as a teacher mostly with women, and they would say, gee, I don't know, when I go home, I got to cook for my husband, and that's just the way it is. And, he comes home and he, whatever. And so I lived in a liberal household, so I did the cooking and the cleaning and all that. And so, it was like hard to have conversations with people. I'd say, like, I come home and, the kids and the ex-wife left a bunch of dishes, so I have to do dishes before I can make myself dinner, and I'm already tired. And, I express those kinds of things, and they have a story where they come home and they have to cook. And it just didn't make sense, but it was because I was in a very liberal, open-minded relationship, I guess. And so it was very hard. It was very tiring because, I had to make all the money, and I had to do all the chores, and I had to raise the children. There were times when I was at work teaching, and I'd get a call, and the school can't get in touch with my now ex-wife, so I needed to come pick her up. So I'd have to drive 40 minutes to go pick up my daughter and then bring her home and wake up my wife, who was sleeping, because writers work much better at night, and so those were her hours, and I had to abide by those hours. And that's another one of those things in a liberal marriage, is that you have to give all the opportunities available to make things work out. I don't know, every relationship person I ever talked to, I would say the same thing. Oh, just try harder, and that's what my ex-wife kept saying. Try harder. And, in the relationship too, I felt very lonely because there wasn't much affection. And the red pillars and those kind of people would just say, oh, well, she was never attracted to you to begin with. So I would take that tack and I would go to her and I'd say, what could I do to increase the affection in the relationship? And it was always try harder. every day was a new criticism. Every day was how I fell short. And if only I could do this. And I said, is there another man out there that you would do it for you? I mean, and again, red pillars would tell you that it's just not masculine a trait and agreeable. But from all the people I worked with, conservative or liberal, minded as well, the answer was never, well, leave the relationship. It was always, well, if you did this or if you did that. It was always on me. It was always incumbent upon me to make things for the better in the relationship. And, she kind of accused me of being sort of conservative, or she would joke around saying yes sahib as if she were supposed to be my slave, when I would ask for things like maybe once in a while do the dishes or something, but that created all kinds of arguments. It's like, well, you don't have to cook for me, you don't have to clean for me, it's okay, I'll do that stuff, but what else could I do to make it so that the relationship would be better? And it was always me, my, and liberal people would tell you, well, just man up, and if you're a real man in sickness and in health, etc., etc. And the sickness is always there, but the health never seems to be there. It's like I'm always the one having to do everything. And even towards the end, when it was like, I tried my best. She had a weight problem, and so she wouldn't listen to any of the things I had to say. Well, you think my doctor knows better than you? So I became a personal trainer, and as a personal trainer, I did my best to try and just be the example. If you can't do it yourself, then how can you expect anyone else to do it? So I was really fit, and then it was like, well, because you're a man, and testosterone, you just lose fat easier and all that. And so, I offered hormone therapy. Let's go see, if we could arrange that. Oh, you think you know better than the doctors. It's always like, well, I don't know. I sort of gave up on the liberal way of doing a relationship. And after the divorce, I found that having a conservative girlfriend is much easier for a lot of those difficulties. She doesn't have any aspirations to go to college, and that's fine, but she's working and working hard, and I approve of whatever she decides with work. If she decides she doesn't want to work because there's enough income, that's a fine choice. If she wants to keep working, that's fine, she could do it, but there's no arguments as to, oh, I think you need to stay, or I think you need to go and stay home and cook and clean, or, make money for the house. None of that's an issue. And it's because, on her end, she's been taught all her life that the man makes the decision on what her work should be. And so when I'm simply an advisor to that for her, it's like, oh, okay, well, he's making the ultimate decision, but it's really kind of we both decide together, and then I sort of give an analysis, and she makes up her own mind, and it works out just fine. And most parts of aspects of the relationship are like that. Just a simple thing like, so she drives a pickup, 2011 Dodge 1500. So, certainly, I drive a Prius to show you, definitely liberal. She's definitely conservative. But the point I wanted to get at with that is that within a few days of us being dating, she'd hand me the keys to her truck, and it's like, well, you drive, and that was normal and natural, and it's didn't need a discussion. It was just how it was, and that made a lot of sense to me. But like, for example, with my ex-wife, whose health was getting worse and worse over time, she always insisted on her right to drive, that I was trying to be conservative and take away her right to drive. So I said, no, go ahead, drive, whatever. It just seems like it'd be easier for you. You get tired easily, and it's difficult for you to concentrate. So the last time I was actually in the car with her, she fell asleep at a light. Actually, at a light, it was red, and it turned green, and she wasn't going, and I looked over, and she was asleep. And, it was no longer a question of, her woman's right to drive. It was like, dangerous. We were in physical danger because of her driving. And later on, she ended up getting in an accident with the car, which was, probably fell asleep at the wheel or something. But the point being, that's a very liberal kind of view where what didn't become an issue with a conservative-minded kind of woman. She just hands me the keys and says, "Well, you're the guy that drives most of the time. That's just how it is," and it takes away a lot of the argument, And I don't know if people could find that somehow inappropriate, but for me it works because I experienced exactly what it's like on the other side, and it just really didn't work out for me. So but that kind of relationship, a liberal man with a conservative woman, just gets tons of hate. Let's take a look at got a fresh comment here on, there was a Huffington Post article about you think your oppressor doesn't want to F you? Be for real. And the article is about women are sharing why conservative men want to date liberal women, and they didn't hold back. And it gave a few points. It was neither here nor there for me because I'm talking about my viewpoint as a liberal male. So anyway, I'll say what I answered and then what the red pill or manosphere thinks that I should do. I don't know. So I said, interesting take, but I will say this. As a liberal male, I never considered a conservative female, but that was the biggest mistake of my life. I have never been happier than with my conservative fiance. So let's look at some of these responses. The best conservative joke ever. Ha 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 ha. So what else do you think you are? And deep down you are not. So I guess I'm not really liberal. How about with your boyfriend? Are you as happy with him as her? So I think that's supposed to mean I'm a homosexual because I'm liberal. Let's view 54 replies. At least one of you has a pair. Usually the other way around though, lol. Though is spelled T-H-O. They're always brilliant. And that got a lot of laughs. Okay, sick puppet. Depends what you mean by conservative. A real conservative would be married at 20, not old and screwing men. We are all conservative to some degree. I'm not even sure what that means. Obviously, it is toxic since you think you have the right to be in charge. Well, that is exactly the 33 years of hell that I lived. Was I never thought I was in charge, and I tried to let the woman lead, and it just didn't work out. And it didn't work out not just for me, but for her. She was miserable. I did everything I could to make her happy, but I just couldn't do it. That's it for the comments that I found on the article, but I did want to talk about something else here. Jesse Waters faced intense backlash after claiming on The Five, probably lost 5 years from that highly educated women ruin their love lives by getting advanced degrees. She stated that educated women become bitter and angry because men don't care if a woman has a PhD, sparking widespread internet mockery and criticism. Yeah, both my kids are in college, both my girls are in college, and hopefully they'll be getting their degrees. And my mom, PhD, no, I totally disagree with that, and I think that you should encourage getting an education, if nothing else, just for your own sake, always improve yourself, always better yourself. So I've given some of my views of how a liberal-minded relationship worked versus a more conservative-minded one, and hopefully you got some interesting information out of it. I would encourage you to join my Skool community, the 7 Habits for Winning at Life. And in there, we can talk about it further. Becoming a member, you get immediate access to my 7 video series, my Stress Mastery Toolkit. So, and if you decide that it's not a good community for you, you have a 7-day free trial. You could cancel at any time. But I encourage you to add to the input going on there. So look forward to hearing from you.